Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be on Dwight Howard. So, Dwight Howard recently was traded from the Wizards, who he only played 9 games with last year and averaged 12 points and 9 rebounds and 2 blocks a game. He was traded from there to the Memphis Grizzlies, who then immediately cut him, and now he is a free agent. So today I'm going to be discussing teams that should consider signing Dwight Howard, who he could help and improve their team and either help them continue to contend or just help them be a mentor to young centers who could use tutelage from him going forward. So today I'm going to be reviewing 5 teams that I think should consider signing Dwight Howard, who he can still bring something to. And just to review here, I think Dwight Howard gets a really bad rap in the NBA, and I think he's still a player that brings a good amount of value to a team. He's basically going to be, on his best days, 15 points a night to 16, 17 points a night. On his worst nights, he's going to be 12 points a night. And on his best days, he's going to give you 12 to 13 to 14 rebounds. And on his worst night, he's going to give you 10. So his worst days, he's going to give you 12 and 10 and 2 blocks a game. And on his best nights, he's going to give you 18 and 14 with 2 blocks a game. And regardless, he's going to shoot about 60% from the field. So I think he's still a very valuable player, someone that can bring a lot of value to a team and can help a contender or just a team like looking to rebuild and take a step in the right direction. So the first team I think he should consider signing for, and just to be clear, a lot of these teams it's going to be either for like the minimum or pretty close to the minimum, just because of their salary cap situations and where he is in his career. So first of all, I have him signing a minimum deal with the Timberwolves, basically to be a backup and a backup to Karl Anthony Towns, but he could also play on court with him at some times, depending on how Towns is willing to space it. But the Timberwolves just like any interior defense or low post defense or rim protection, and so they could really use Dwight Howard to help them shore up that front, in that he could sub in for Towns and be a rim protector, or play along with Towns and be a rim protector, and just bring some physicality and a defensive presence that the team really lacks, in my opinion. So that's a first one that I think would be a good signing spot for him. He wouldn't be playing 35 minutes a night or anything. He'd probably be playing like 20 minutes a night, but I still think it would be a good spot for him, and that he could have a good impact on the team, especially if they keep this current core together. Like going into the season, if you had a lineup that was like Jeff Teague, Wiggins, Covington, Towns, and Dwight Howard, I think that could be a pretty effective lineup. Of course, if they're going against a smaller team, then they would have to sub in somebody else instead of Howard to slot in to play power forwards, or because Karl Anthony Towns can't really keep up with the faster power forwards in the league, like a PJ Tucker. So you'd have to bench him in those scenarios, but he could still be effective as far as being a rim protector. The second team I have on here is the Atlanta Hawks. This one maybe makes the most sense to me, or some of the most sense. First of all, Dwight Howard's from Atlanta and he's already played for the Hawks, so I think that they would welcome him back if he were willing to sign for like a really low value contract for just like 1 year. Uh, because they're his hometown, they'd appreciate getting him back, I think. And they currently have Alex Len as their starting center, and Alex Len is, and no offense to him, he is an NBA player, so he clearly has talent and stuff like that. But he is going to be about the worst starting center in the NBA next year. And so, having said that, I think Dwight Howard would be a really big upgrade over him. You could trot out a starting lineup of something like Trae Young, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Dwight Howard, with like Kevin Huerter coming off the bench, Evan Turner coming off the bench. I think that would be a pretty solid team, and they could be like the 9 or the 10 seed in the East with that, and that would really expedite their rebuilding process. So yeah, I think that's a team that clearly has a lack of a presence at center, and it could really use a Dwight Howard to both shore them up defensively and just be a an alley oop, catch it and put it in option for the Hawks next to John Collins, who John Collins can space it a little bit, so I don't think they would have too many struggles as far as like spacing, and if they did, they could stagger their minutes when they each come out of the game, so I think they'd be fine having both guys on the team. They wouldn't struggle too much or anything, I don't think. Next, I think a team that Dwight Howard would work well on, again for probably a minimum or close to a minimum value contract, would be the Sacramento Kings. So at center, the Kings currently have like Dwayne Dedmon is who they're planning to start with, basically Kosta Koufos as a backup. I think that Dwight Howard would work really well as sort of like a platoon center with Dedmon. You could play each guy like somewhere between 24 to 28 minutes a night, something like that, depending on who you're playing. If you're playing a team with a great offensive center, like the Lakers with DeMarcus Cousins, or I'm trying to think here, just like a team like Denver with Nikola Jokic, or the 76ers with Joel Embiid, you can then on those nights more heavily play a guy like Dwight Howard, and Dwayne Dedmon can take more of a back seat. But if you're playing a team that doesn't really have an offensively dominant center, you could play Dedmon more because he can shoot the 3-point ball and he can space it, and Dwight Howard can't really do that. So on those nights, I think Dwayne Dedmon would be more effective. But I like a team that would feature those two guys as a platoon at center. They can both offer you something really distinct that the other can't. And although Dwayne Dedmon is a decent defender, I think Dwight Howard would be a major upgrade at this point. He's also a better rebounder than Dedmon. But Dedmon offers that 3-point ball that I think is pretty valuable to this team as far as spacing. So both guys as a platoon option could be very valuable, I think, and could vault the they could improve the Kings from like a 9 or 10 seed to maybe like an 8 seed in the West, maybe. Um, you never know what could be that little push that would send a team over the edge and improve them to be a better NBA squad. This next team, I think, is one of the ones that also makes some of the most sense, and that would be the San Antonio Spurs, who really they have Jakob Poeltl, but I don't like him as an NBA starting center. I think he's really more meant to be a backup at this point in his career. So I think that slotting Dwight in there at starting center would be good for this team. You could have a lineup that would be like, let's see here, DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Dwight Howard. That lineup is pretty impressive to me, and I think would be pretty effective. Dwight Howard, again, he brings something that the Spurs don't have a ton of at this point, which is rim protection and a really good rebounding guy, which they don't really have at all because LaMarcus Aldridge is a good player, but he's not a rim protector, and he gets between 8 to 9 rebounds a game, so nothing much there. Or like for a guy who's 6'11", that's not many rebounds, getting only like 8 a game. So I'd like Dwight Howard on his team, a guy that could grab you 12 rebounds. Again, you could use him to defend some of those centers like Jokic or Cousins or whoever. Just he would be an effective upgrade at defense for this team. And I think that Jakob Poeltl is basically the slotted center, and I think he'd be a big upgrade over him. So I would like this deal for the San Antonio Spurs quite a bit. And again, he'd have to sign for very cheap because they really don't have any cap space at this point. And lastly, the fifth team I have on here who I think should at least consider signing him is the Dallas Mavericks. Similar tale to some of these other teams. They have a starting center who would be decent. I think Boban Marjanovic would probably right now start at center for the team. Him or Dwight Powell. If Dwight Powell were to start, he'd probably be the power forward, and Porzingis would be the center. But I would much rather like a lineup of Dwight Howard at center and Porzingis at the 4. This team has enough spacing that they'd be fine, I think, if they were to sign him. It's not like Boban Marjanovic can space it, so he'd provide about the same amount of spacing. But he'd be a much better interior defender, like I've been saying for a lot of teams, and he's a great rebounder, which he'd be a better rebounder than either Dwight Powell or Boban Marjanovic. And again, Dwight shoots like 60% from the field, so he is still like a pretty efficient player, except for from the free throw line. So I don't think it would hurt their team really at all to sign him. And you could have a starting lineup after this trade of like either Jalen Brunson or JJ Barea, depending on who you start. Let's just say Jalen Brunson, shooting guard probably Courtney Lee, small forward Luka, power forward Kristaps, center Dwight Howard, with a bench of Boban Marjanovic, Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr., JJ Barea, and Seth Curry. That's actually a pretty deep team, and I think they would be pretty good. Not maybe not making the playoffs in the West because the West is so deep right now, but they would definitely be in the mix and be a team on the come up. And I just think that he again would add value to that team. So in conclusion, guys, I think Dwight Howard still brings value to whatever team he were to go to in the NBA. He's still a good player. He just basically has struggled with his health a little bit and finding the right location where he can give the team something that it really needs. But he definitely still has a lot of value in this league and shouldn't be overlooked in this whole free agency mess. He's gonna end up signing somewhere for like either the minimum or like $1 or $2 million on a 1 year deal, and people are gonna look back and say that's one of the best value deals in the NBA if Dwight Howard is healthy next season. So keep your eyes out for that. Hope you guys have a good day. Hope you enjoy the video. Feel free to leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.